Hey, it's Cashflow Mike, and I want to talk about why businesses struggle with cash flow. More importantly, how you can fix it. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about my clear path to cash, some of the techniques that I use to find hidden cash, and not only that, put it back in your pocket. So why do businesses struggle with cash flow, right? So most businesses don't fail because they aren't making money. They fail because they run out of cash. This is something that catches the business owners off guard all the time. They assume that as long as sales are strong, the money will always be there when they need it. But that's not how cash flow works. I've worked with businesses that have had millions of revenue, but still couldn't make payroll. I had a boutique shop that had steady customers and found themselves unable to pay rent. I had a construction company that landed a huge contract, but ended up in a cash crisis that almost bankrupted them before they could finish a job. The problem isn't that they weren't making enough money. The problem is that the cash is tied up in the wrong place. Inventory wasn't moving, customers were taking too long to pay, expenses are draining their bank account faster than expected. All of these things are the reasons why I created the Clear Path to Cash. It's a system designed to find hidden cash in a business and fix leaks fast. It's also designed to speed up cash flow cycles so money moves faster, and it's used as a financial forecasting model to stay ahead of these type of problems. So by the end of this session, I think you're going to be able to do a couple of different things. One, identify cash leaks. Two, optimize cash flow and build a predictable, stable business. Let's get started. The first technique that I always like to do, right? If you can't find the leaks, then you don't know where to start fixing it, and you're just digging in all the wrong places. So I use mining your business for hidden cash. Now, mining your business for hidden cash is a unique set of 6 calculations that kind of compare you to what you could be and what you should be by looking at your business in 2 different directions, right? Both vertically, starting with sales, ending with profit, how money moves through a company, and horizontally, how long does it take for this to happen? So the first step in solving cash flow problems isn't getting a loan. It isn't slashing prices or working harder. The first step is finding out where the cash is leaking. So think about a business like a bucket of water. If that bucket has holes in it, no matter how much water, in this case revenue, we pour into it, it's always going to be draining out. You can't keep adding more water unless you plug the leaks, or else you're going to be struggling to keep up, right? That's what's going to happen. It's just going to be flowing out the bottom of the bucket. So let's look at this retail store I worked with recently, right? On the surface, their numbers look good. They had strong sales. They had a good, loyal customer base. Traffic was walking in and out the door. They even had a solid profit margin, but every month there was a cash shortage. And when we went through mining your business for hidden cash, I came up with 3 big problems that they were having. One, they had $100,000 in slow moving inventory. It was just products that were sitting on the shelves for months, just tying up cash. Some people call their little elf that causes mischief in Christmas elf on the shelf. I call your inventory that sits there too long wealth on the shelf. So we don't want it to sit there. Next thing, we found $75,000 in late payments, right? People that had credit with them or people that they allowed credit with were waiting 45 to 60 days to pay their bills or pay their invoices. That's no way to run a business, to wait for money that long. And lastly, they had like $40,000 in unnecessary expenses. They had subscriptions and unused software, and they had some other services that they were, renting or buying in that they didn't need. So here was the fix, right? The business just ran a clearance sale to turn some of that slow inventory into immediate cash. Yeah, you're not getting full retail, but it's better than zero by sitting on the shelf. Not only that, we ran it down to the proper level. So we got cash from the sale, and then cash stayed in the company because we didn't immediately use it to replace it. We just let the inventory levels become lower. Then our payment terms were immediately changed to either net 60 or 30 because we didn't want people waiting 45 to 90 days, and we gave incentives for people to pay early. Matter of fact, most of our large clients that we were spending a lot of time, providing service for, we would make them pay more up front. And then lastly, those unexpected or unnecessary expenses were just cut. That freed up a lot of cash. How do I know if I need something or don't need something? If you're not using it, why are you paying for it? In this case, we had just subscriptions that weren't being used. They were just sitting there. We had to go through the bank account. We had to go through the accounting system to figure out where money was going. So here's a key takeaway for mining your business. Most businesses already have the cash. They just don't know where to find it. It's already sitting there or leaking out in other places. So better than looking for loans or cutting costs, identify where the money is being trapped inside the business. Sometimes it's pricing. Sometimes it's just more sales. Sometimes you're spending it. Sometimes it's how fast you're paying your bills. All of those things contribute to money leaking out of your business faster than it should be. So that leads me to the second thing, right? The second thing that I do, once I identify it's like an inventory or timing type problem, well, I look at the fast money formula. Now, the fast money formula is about optimizing cash flow by pulling the levers. How long does inventory sit on the shelf? How much do I pay in payroll? How long does it take my customers to pay me? Or how long does it take me to pay my vendors? Those are all things that contribute to what I call the financial gap. The financial gap is the difference between money coming in and money going out of the business. And the difference between money coming in and money going out is called the financial gap. And you need enough money, or working capital as you might hear it, to cover that time period. That's how much money you need. Most people don't tell you, or don't tell you how much you need, but you need enough to cover that time period. So cash flow isn't just about how much money you have, it's about how fast it's going to move through your business. So picture two roads. One is a highway with no traffic where money flows just freely and quickly. The other is a congested street where cash gets stuck in long payment cycles, in delayed orders, or slow invoice collections. There was a manufacturing business that I worked with that had a serious cash flow issue that, despite being profitable, they still had a problem. What was the problem? Customers were paying on net 90 terms. Net 90, right? Who takes 3 months to get money for work they've already done? But meanwhile, they still had to pay their employees and still had to pay their suppliers and their overhead every single month. This is a common trap. And if you've been through my course, you know I tell the story about the perfect push-up and how that became a dream situation where they went from 0 sales to $60 million in sales in 2 years and almost lost the company. How? That dream of being in Costco, Target, Walmart quickly became one of those issues that's a nightmare because, well, I'm waiting 90 or 120 days to get my money while I've already made all these other payments. So here's how you fix things like that. You want to look for payment terms that are smaller or shorter, not 90 days, closer to 30 days, right? The smaller the gap, the less money it takes to run your business. We also introduced a 2% early payment discount. Why? Because when payment can come in within 10 days, we'll give you a 2% discount, but I'm getting the money within 10 days, not waiting 90 to put my hands on it. And then customers with large orders are going to be required to pay deposits up front instead of waiting for delivery, right? We want some type of money up front, some skin in the game on this order because you're putting out the money up front to bring the supplies in. So within 3 months, I'll tell you what, this company had turned around a cash flow nightmare and put it into a predictable system where money was moving through the company faster than ever. It is the speed of cash. That is what we want to concentrate on. How fast does money move through this company? So here's your key takeaway on step number 2. The faster money moves through the business, the fewer cash flow issues it's going to have. Getting paid sooner is just as important as making the sale. So that leads me to number 3, because most people will go, I need money, and they'll look anywhere for this money. They'll even look to the bank, they'll look to the credit card, they'll take a second mortgage out on their house. They will go into debt. Now, managing debt, I like to use the home run financial system. The home run financial system is 6 calculations that touches all the bases: the income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, and kind of shows you where the biggest problems are. But specifically, there's 3 calculations out of the 6 that are focused on debt and using the right kind of debt, because debt isn't always bad. I've got to tell you that unless you're using the wrong kind. It's not always bad unless it's the wrong kind. There's a restaurant I was working with that was struggling with cash flow because it had taken on some short-term loans to finance some long-term equipment purchases. Now, every month they were making these high interest payments on debt. And when I talk about short-term loans, I want to tell you the rule on financing. The length of the loan should match the life of the asset. So what does that mean? Well, if I can depreciate something for 5 or 7 years because that's its useful life, then I should buy it with a 5 or 7 year term loan. That way when payment's in, so does depreciation. And it's also long-term debt because it's more than 1 year's worth of use. Now you're saying, well, what's the difference there? Well, short-term debt is more expensive than long-term debt. Think about it. Would you buy a house with a credit card? Probably not, right? Because credit card interest rates are 25 to 30%. Mortgages are around 67%. So every month it's a silent killer of business because it sucks money out of your company in the form of higher interest payments. So this is what it's like when you use, a credit card to buy the house. You might get the home, in his case, the equipment, but the monthly payments are going to bury you. It's just going to overcome you. So here's how you fix this. What we did was refinanced his debt into a low interest term loan that matched the useful life of the equipment. So the equipment he could depreciate for 5 years. We purchased it with a 5-year term loan. We took it off of the short-term line of credit that he used and short-term leasing payments that he was using and put it into a long-term loan. A line of credit was secured though, but it was secured for short-term cash flow gaps. You got to think about the line of credit. The line of credit is all about your working capital for direct cost. It's to buy your inventory so you can keep up with your sales volume. It's to make your payroll so you can keep up with your service cost, right? So both of them, there's different calculations, but your line of credit is designed to cover what you need to keep up with sales. And that way, as soon as your customers pay you, well, then you pay the line of credit and leave whatever is left over to run the rest of your business, pay your rent, pay your subscriptions, those type of things. And what we did with future purchases was just, we planned with this type of debt structure in mind. That's one of the big rules. Don't use short-term cash for long-term investments, right? So key takeaway, match the type of debt to the type of expense. Using the right kind of financing is going to turn your debt into a tool instead of a trap. And then last thing I want to talk about, forecasting by the numbers. Forecasting is, first of all, everybody what I talk to, they say, oh, you're cash flow Mike. Teach me how to forecast, or what's your forecasting software like? I can tell you this, forecasting is just one small piece of cash flow management. Forecasting is like crossing the street, right? What do you do when you cross the street? You look both ways. Why? So you can see if something's coming. That's forecasting. If I see the bus coming, well, I know maybe I can't cross the street unless it's farther away. So the farther I can identify that the bus is coming, I have more options. I can walk across the street, run across the street, TikTok in the middle of the street, doesn't matter. The farther I can see the bus coming, I can avoid it. Now, what I can't get it to do is change. I don't know how, when I forecast, I don't know how to stop the bus. I don't know how to make the bus turn. I just know it's coming and I have options. The options are the other things we've talked about, mining your business for hidden cash, the fast money formula. But let's talk about forecasting right now. The difference between businesses that thrive and those that struggle comes down to one thing. It's the ability to see these problems before they happen. Without forecasting, a business is driving blindfolded and, well, you don't know what's coming, right? It's like crossing the street with a blindfold. You don't know what's coming, so you can't be prepared. I worked with a marketing agency that had $400,000 in revenue and everything seemed great. That's what they projected. That's what was coming in until we forecasted that their cash flow was not going to hit in the same quarter, right? Even though they were recording the sale in March, it was going to be April, May, June before the money actually hit the bank account, meaning that they wouldn't get the cash right away. There was $250,000 that was going to be tied up in long-term projects and it was creating a major problem. So their expenses right then were outpacing the revenue, right? Because they still had to keep up with the salaries. They still had to keep up with all the materials they needed for the actual project. So how do you fix? Well, a cash budget is then created, right? You build the income statement. The income statement is all about business viability. Does my plan work? If I have this much money in sales and spend this much money in expenses, I'll make this much profit. That's not a cash budget. Cash budget is matching it up. I might record the sale in January, but I don't get the money till March. And match up reality of when cash is coming in. So cash is going to help you anticipate any of the shortfalls. And then what we did was we restructured the way revenue was going to be collected, asking for partial payments up front. And if we had to, we would give a discount for them making a partial payment up front, because it's better to have money up front to help cover some of these costs rather than wait to the end. Otherwise, you got to have all the money yourself and it's going to come out of your pocket. And believe it, because it's spanning over a quarter or two, seasonal revenue dips were planned in advance. Instead of reacting in a panic, we could know that, oh, June's going to be a bad month. We need to save cash now so we can make it through June. Now, what I tell people, at a minimum, if you're not going to do any type of calculations, at a minimum, have 3 to 6 months of operating expense in cash reserves. So that means if you're spending $10,000 a month just to keep your business running, have $30,000 to $60,000. That way, if you have a bad month or quarter, you have enough money to make it through and not have to worry about it. It buys you time. It buys you time for a lot of different things. So here's my key takeaway. Forecasting, it's not about predicting the future. It's about preparing for the future and what might happen. Businesses that forecast cash flow are going to stay in greater control and they'll never get blindsided because you'll be anticipating these things that could happen. Let's finish up by talking about what can you do today to make a difference in your business. So we covered a lot. We talked about how to find hidden cash in a business. We talked about how to speed up cash flow so money moves faster. We talked about how to use debt the right way instead of letting it drain your resources, and how to forecast your cash flow so problems never take you by surprise. So the difference between businesses that survive and businesses that thrive is the ability to manage cash flow. So what's your next move? If you want to master these skills, I'm going to invite you to check out my program, the membership, Clear Path to Cash. Any of the memberships get you 3 things, 3 pillars. A, you'll get the courses, video courses on how to do these calculations and put them to work in your business today. You watch a 30-minute video, you can implement it right then. You've got group meetings as part of this membership, which means you'll be able to meet up with me on a weekly basis and ask me these type of questions about what's going on in your business or your clients' businesses, and we'll work through it together. That does all of this for you and gives you that crutch you need in order to feel supported and putting more cash back in your business. So if you want to master these skills, check out that program. Also, like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends about Cashflow Mike and our YouTube channel. We'll talk to you soon.